What would happen if the internet suddenly stopped working? Imagine waking up on an ordinary morning. You reach for your phone like you always do. No Wi-Fi. You switch to 4G. Still no signal. Your laptop won't connect. Every app is stuck on loading. No email, no maps, no banking, no video calls. And then it hits you. The internet has stopped working. At first, it might just feel like a mild inconvenience. No Netflix, no social media. Maybe it's a good time to unplug and take a break. But within hours, things start to unravel. You can't access your bank account. Stores can't process payments. Flights are grounded. Hospitals lose access to patient records. Traffic snarls. Rumors spread like wildfire, but no one can verify what's true. The internet isn't just a source of entertainment. It's the lifeblood of the modern world. If it went down, even for a few days, the consequences could surpass any crisis scenario we've ever imagined. So here's a full picture. What would really happen if the internet vanished from Earth? The first thing you'd notice is digital silence. No message notifications, no emails, no video calls, no online meetings, no live news updates. A world that once operated 24/7, instantly connected by billions of devices, would suddenly feel like the 1960s. Only now, people are entirely dependent on that connection to function. Picture this. You're living abroad, and you can't even send a quick message to check on your family. Multinational companies can't exchange data, can't host meetings, can't even log into internal systems, because their entire infrastructure is cloud-based. From files and contracts to calendars, CRMs, and customer data, it all lives online. Without the internet, it's as if someone yanked the power cord from millions of businesses. Governments wouldn't be spared either. Internal email systems would be frozen. Emergency response centers would lose contact with local teams. Military bases would be cut off. Real-time data systems, used for everything from national defense to disease control, would slow to a crawl, or worse, fall apart completely. Schools, many of which now operate largely online, would come to a screeching halt. No virtual classrooms, no online assignments, no student management systems. In the first few hours, students might be thrilled, but by day's end, panic would set in, especially at institutions that rely entirely on digital platforms. And that's just the surface. Massive information systems, airlines, train networks, logistics firms, ports, rely on real-time data to schedule, route, and track shipments. Without connectivity, it's like flying blind through heavy fog without radar. The internet isn't just a bridge between people, it's the central nervous system of modern civilization. If that system snaps, the world is left disoriented and silent. Not because people aren't speaking, but because there's nowhere for their words to go. When the internet shuts down, the global financial system wouldn't just be disrupted, it would collapse instantly. Within minutes, the beating heart of the economy, bank transfers, online transactions, the banking system would be paralyzed. And the scariest part? There's no restart button for a system that runs at the speed of light. No internet means no swiping your card at the grocery store, no ATM withdrawals, no checking your bank balance on your phone. Worse still, banks couldn't even process their own transactions. With no access to cloud servers, they can't verify accounts, match balances, or confirm identities. Even if money is transferred, there's no way to prove it, because the data can't sync across servers. At major stock exchanges in New York, London, Tokyo, a financial earthquake would erupt. With connections down, trades halted, and markets cut off from real-time news and data, stock values would plummet out of sheer panic, even if no one truly knows what's going on. And since global financial markets are tightly intertwined, a crash in one market would ripple outward like falling dominoes, triggering a crisis unlike anything we've seen. Multinational corporations wouldn't be able to pay salaries, process contracts, or close deals. All large-scale financial activity depends on real-time data exchange, something only the internet makes possible. Once it's gone, trust in the financial system begins to crack. And in finance, when trust breaks, the entire structure collapses, sometimes in a matter of hours. With no way to access funds or stay informed, people would rush to withdraw cash, creating chaos at banks. But with ATMs disconnected from data centers, they'd either stop working or run out of cash within hours. Stores would stop accepting credit cards, falling back on physical cash, which is now scarce in our digital-first economy. Black markets, illegal trade, and physical bartering would quickly emerge as a means of survival. Meanwhile, nations heavily dependent on e-commerce, digital transactions, and modern banking systems would suffer the most devastating consequences. A century ago, gold and physical goods were the backbone of finance. Today, it's digital trust that holds everything together. And when the internet, the infrastructure that keeps that data flowing, disappears, the modern financial system won't just slow down. It will face an unprecedented depression. Not because there's no money, but because there's no way to use it. Picture walking into your local supermarket, only to find the shelves empty. No produce, no milk, no bread, not even bottled water. It's not because of a sudden surge in demand, but because the entire logistical system that quietly keeps things running every day has collapsed, right along with the internet. In today's world, every link in the supply chain, from warehouses, trucks, shipping containers, cargo ships, and freight planes to retail stores, relies on digital connectivity. Inventory is tracked with sensors and cloud software. Orders are processed automatically. Delivery times are optimized by algorithms. That bottle of water you just grabbed passed through at least 4 or 5 logistics checkpoints, and at each step, the internet was the central command. Once the internet goes down, the entire system goes blind. Warehouses can't check inventory. Distribution centers don't receive supermarket orders. Truck drivers don't know what to deliver or where to go. Containers get stuck at ports due to missing customs data. Cargo planes are grounded, disconnected from flight management systems. The result? Nothing moves, nothing is restocked, and no one knows what's going on. Within just 2 or 3 days, major supermarkets would start to run out of stock. Pharmacies wouldn't receive medicine. Gas stations would begin rationing fuel. Food production facilities would shut down due to a lack of raw materials. Remote regions, already heavily dependent on consistent supply chains, would become isolated islands where goods are as valuable as gold. As panic sets in, people rush to hoard whatever they can find, accelerating the shortages. Without updates from logistics networks, businesses can't make decisions. Without real-time reports, governments can't respond effectively. And when major cities, which rely on imports for up to 90% of their food and medical supplies, start running dry, a large-scale humanitarian crisis could erupt. Ironically, in the age of hyperconnectivity, we've built an incredibly efficient, but incredibly fragile system. Break one link in the chain, and the whole thing collapses. And the internet, invisible as it is the thread that holds this entire living system together. When that thread snaps, we don't just lose convenience, we lose our ability to maintain order and basic social stability. Without the internet, the world doesn't just lose connection and commerce. Even foundational services like transportation, energy, and healthcare begin to crack. We often forget that in the modern age, nearly every essential system in society relies on connectivity, not just to operate, but to survive. At international airports, planes can't take off because air traffic control systems no longer function. Departure and arrival boards go dark. GPS navigation fails. Radar systems stop transmitting data. Thousands of flights are delayed or canceled. Even worse, planes already in the air lose communication with ground control, forcing emergency landings in increasingly chaotic conditions. On the ground, urban traffic descends into chaos. Traffic lights at intersections rely on centralized network coordination. When that connection is lost, they freeze in whatever state they were in, leading to gridlock, collisions, and hours-long backups. Navigation apps, rideshare services, and electronic transit payments stop working, leaving people stranded and confused. On the infrastructure level, Systems that supply electricity and clean water, largely invisible, yet incredibly complex, begin to falter. In many countries, power stations, water pumps, and wastewater treatment plants are monitored and controlled remotely via the internet. Some can continue in manual or backup mode. But with thousands of such facilities nationwide, just 5 to 10% going offline could trigger widespread blackouts, water pressure loss, or even contaminated water supplies if issues aren't addressed quickly. And when the healthcare system is affected, the danger becomes more immediate and more personal. Hospitals lose access to electronic medical records. Prescriptions can't be processed. Surgeries can't be scheduled. Advanced medical equipment, like MRI machines, heart monitors, and automated IV pumps, typically depend on real-time connectivity for data updates. Without it, patient care reverts to manual processes, slower, riskier, and far more error-prone. Most people think the internet is just for sending emails or streaming movies, but in reality, it's what keeps your city lit, your tap water clean, and someone's heart beating steadily in the ICU. When it goes down, it's not just a disruption, it's the unraveling of everything that makes modern life safe and livable. In today's economy, the internet isn't just a tool, it's the foundation. Every second, millions of e-commerce transactions, financial transfers, business communications, warehouse updates, and automated systems are running on the global digital infrastructure. So when the internet stops working, the world doesn't just go silent. It plunges into a full-blown economic crisis. According to estimates by NetBlocks and Lloyd's, a 24-hour global internet outage could cause over $50 billion in economic damage. But if the blackout lasts a week or more, the impact would far exceed any crisis of the 21st century. Financial transactions would halt, supply chains would snap, consumer activity would freeze. Tech companies, which make up a significant portion of global stock markets, could lose hundreds of billions of dollars in value in just days. And that's only the direct loss. The indirect consequences would be even worse. Small businesses wouldn't be able to operate. They'd lose customers and struggle to pay wages. Mass layoffs would follow. Stock markets would crash due to lack of information. Investment firms would make poor decisions without real-time data. A domino effect would ripple across industries, from finance, manufacturing, and services to agriculture, energy, and education. Developed economies, where nearly every business is online, would be hit the hardest. Governments would have no choice but to intervene. But when government operations themselves rely on digital infrastructure, response efforts would be slow and inefficient. Social chaos would be inevitable. Panic buying, urban emergencies, and a deepening loss of public trust in institutions. A global internet outage isn't just a tech blackout, it's a silent tsunami that breaks the rules of economics and pushes the world to the edge of collapse faster than anyone ever imagined. When the internet goes down, it's not just systems that collapse. Trust collapses too. In the modern world, people don't just live on information. They rely on instant connectivity to feel in control. When that connection is severed, that sense of control vanishes, and fear fills the void. Without social media, news updates, emails from work, or texts from loved ones, people start asking, what's going on? What's being hidden? Who's telling the truth, and who's manipulating us? In the absence of reliable information, rumors spread like wildfire, faster than any algorithm could ever catch. Without Facebook, Twitter, or live news feeds, governments lose their primary communication channels. Emergency alerts become delayed, or worse, never delivered. That delay creates distance, not physical but psychological, between the public and those in power. In densely populated cities that rely entirely on the internet for maintaining order, from traffic management and electronic payments to emergency services, things can spiral quickly. It starts small, long lines at ATMs, crowded grocery stores. But it only takes one piece of misinformation, real or fake, about food shortages, bank collapses, or terrorist threats to spark mass panic. Looting, localized riots, attacks on stores, warehouses, or infrastructure may soon follow. In the dark, without information, people stop acting rationally. They act out of instinct. And that's the breaking point of any digital society. When trust collapses, no amount of technology can prevent the fall of social order. In the 21st century, stability depends not just on laws or law enforcement, but on the continuous flow of data, dialogue, and transparency. A society that isn't connected or informed, no matter how advanced, can descend into chaos with terrifying speed. In those moments, the internet isn't just a convenience, it's a pillar of peace. The internet isn't just a convenient way to watch videos, send emails, or order groceries. It is the silent bloodstream of modern civilization, where everything from finance to healthcare, education to energy, depends on that invisible thread to function. If the internet suddenly went dark, the world wouldn't quietly rewind to the 90s. Instead, we'd plunge into an unprecedented crisis, where every link in the chain of daily life, from communication and banking to food supply and governance, faces imminent collapse. It wouldn't just be an inconvenience, it would be a test of survival in a world built on connection. And when that connection disappears, we'll be forced to ask, how do we rebuild a society that doesn't just depend on technology, but is rooted in adaptability, in human cooperation, and in our ability to sustain trust in one another?